a lot about Teilhard, because for me, more than any other thinker, perhaps in addition to Brian Swim, it talks about a cosmology of love. Brian talks about it in various ways of, allurement and so on. But I want you to hear many of Teilhard's own words and thoughts. And I've tried not to inject my own bias or own perspective here, because I want you to hear what he has to say. I am deeply indebted to Ursula King, who is an aficionado of Teilhard, who in an article a few years ago compared Teilhard to Pitirim Sorokin and their approaches to love. So I have kind of distilled some of her information and massaged it a little bit into what I'm about to share with you. Again, there will be some reading here because I want to get precise about Teilhard's thought. So, according to Teilhard, love is the primal and universal energy, the most tremendous and most mysterious of cosmic forces, the blood of spiritual evolution. These words from Teilhard in his essay, The Spirit of the Earth, show that for him the roots of love were cosmic, and the energy of love, the power of coming together, of unification and greater synthesis, runs through the entire epic of evolution and expresses itself as a higher form of energy in human lives. The idea of energy holds a central position in Teilhard's thought. It is a concept, a mental construct, an abstraction, and is not tangible, but he says is nevertheless very real. Teilhard gave the generic term tangential energy to all the physical forms of energy, that is the mechanical, the chemical, the thermal, the nuclear, and so on. But there is also mental or spiritual energy, which he called radial energy. For Teilhard, love is a higher form of radial energy that gives life, effects change, and guides the lower forms of energy. This higher form he calls love energy. Teilhard sought to amortize the universe. He sought a universal metaphysics of love, not one exclusively based on any particular philosophy or religious doctrine, but solidly built on scientific grounds and integrating all the religious and scientific knowledge on love we possess so far. For Teilhard, love is a universally active, creative potential that provides a strong binding force throughout the cosmos and social coherence for a variety of human groupings. Indeed, Teilhard says, taken in its full biological reality, love is not unique to the human being. It represents a general property of all life. And as such, it embraces all the varieties and degrees of every form successively taken by organized matter from the human phenomenon. Love can be applied to many different experiences. It involves the idea of bringing together and integrating different aspects into a larger whole. Teilhard criticized the traditional concept of love as being too static or too spiritualized, too divorced from its cosmic roots, from natural passion, in which all love, including the love of God, has its starting point. He says, with love of spouse, love of children, love of friends, and love of country, we often imagine that we have exhausted the various forms of natural loving. But precisely the most fundamental form of passion is missing from this list, the passion of cosmic affinity, and as a result, the cosmic sense. A love that embraces the entire universe is not only something psychologically possible, he says, it is also the only complete and final way which we can love. Good stuff, huh? For Teilhard, love is a fire both human and divine. And he wrote a great deal about the love of the world and the love of God. Where early in his writing, he experienced a great tension between these two kinds of love. He eventually came to see that the love of God can be achieved only through a love for the world and of people. He sought as his particular task to integrate and thereby transform the two loves into a sense of fullness and plenitude. He considered it his mission to make other people see the great power and energy of these intertwined loves. The The love of world, understood as the love of nature and the love of human beings, combined with the love of something greater than ourselves, something absolute and divine. He says, it is through love and within love that we must look for the deepening of our deepest self in the life-giving coming together of humankind and the grand option. Teilhard also spoke about the transformation of love, whereby love itself is going through a change of state from cosmic energy to organized matter to biological life to human loving. Love, like thought, says Teilhard, is still in full growth in the noosphere. For Teilhard, love is the fundamental impulse of life, the free and imaginative outpouring of the spirit over all unexplored paths. Indeed, Teilhard maintains the great epic of evolution can be read as a rise of spirit and a way of unfolding God's purpose and ultimate goal. In sum, love in evolution plays, quote, a unifying, integrating, harmonizing, creative role in cosmic, biological, social, mental, and moral processes from human phenomenon. The universe story is a love story. Teilhard saw love as a transforming energy for transcending the individual self and for creating a radically new, collaborative, and cooperative way of acting that will transform whole societies, indeed the planet. He advocated systematic scientific research on the production and application of love energy for the change of culture, social institutions, and human beings. Yet he did not provide the details of how to pursue such goals. And by the way, in this regard, I would recommend Patirim Sorokin's The Ways and Power of Love. Teilhard followed instead his customary and essential goal of helping us see. His vision of love, says David Tracy, is a spirituality that celebrates the oneness of creation, a spirituality that acknowledges love as the clearest understanding we have of God, of ourselves, of history, and of the cosmos. Altruistic love, compassion, and forgiveness all arise from the unlimited love present in creation, and all are essential to our survival. Yet this fact does not seem to have penetrated deeply enough into our consciousness to manifest a change in behavior. For Teilhard, the focus on love is more urgent now than ever before. He says, is it truly possible for humanity to continue to live and grow without asking itself how much truth and energy it is losing by neglecting this incredible power of love? Perhaps more poignantly, he says this: love one another, which was a commandment that Jesus gave. Those words pronounced 2,000 years ago, but today they sound again in our ears in a very different tone. For centuries, charity and fraternity could only be presented in a code of moral perfection, or perhaps as a practical method of diminishing the pains or frictions of earthly life. Now, the voice which speaks takes on a more imperious tone. It no longer says, love one another in order to be perfect, but adds, love one another or you perish. Realistic minds are welcome to smile at dreamers who speak of a humanity cemented and armored no longer with brutality but love. They are welcome to deny that a maximum of physical power may coincide with a maximum of gentleness and goodness. Their spiritual skepticism cannot prevent the theory and experience of spiritual energy from combining to warn us that we have reached a decisive point in human evolution at which the only way forward is in the direction of a common passion, or what he called conspiration. To go on putting our hopes in a social order obtained by external violence would simply mean to abandon all hope of carrying the spirit of love to its limits. For Teilhard, conspiration, which means literally breathing together, meant conscious collaboration to create loving communion. One of Teilhard's most oft-quoted phrases is this: the day will come when, after harnessing the ether, the winds, the tides, gravitation, we shall harness for God the energies of love, and on that day, for the second time in history of the world, humans will have discovered fire. For him, the symbol of fire meant the warmth and radiance of love and light, the energy to fuse and transform everything. It is the transforming energies of love which alone can create a truly human community and provide it with its strongest points. Teilhard advocated systematic scientific research on the production and application of love energy for the change of culture, social institutions, and human beings. Teilhard does not make explicit distinctions between eros, philia, and agape, though if we listen carefully to what he did say, we can discern all three being present. We'll talk a little bit about that. For me, eros is the most fundamental of all the loves. It is that reaching towards one's becoming. Now, sometimes the word desire is used singularly to express eros. It is more than that. It's more than just urge or yen or yearning or longing. It also has to do with inspiration. As Plato talked about, eros is multivalent and multi-leveled. That we can have appetitive or acquisitive desires or physical desires, that it's one thing. And by the way, Edward Collins Volchek talks about the difference between erotic and erosic. Erotic is that appetitive, acquisitive, yearning, drive, desire part. But the erosic is the aspiration or the inspiration to reach beyond yourself, in fact, to perhaps become one with the ultimate source of creation. So eros is different, is layered at different levels, and it has different kinds of meanings. But you know what? As we found out in our exercise this morning, philia tends to emerge or differentiate from eros. That is, we cannot become our fullest self. We cannot actualize our full potential. We cannot become full flourishing. Or we cannot reach our highest well-being, however you want to say that, without community, without relationship. And so philia begins with a reciprocity. I'll do for you if you do for me. It itself differentiates and evolves to become more of mutuality, a give and take. And that evolves further into communion, a sharing of deep souls and minds. So it too is multi-leveled and layered. And when we reach that stage of intimate communion with another person or persons, another love emerges and differentiates, and that is of agape. Now the Christians, in the tradition of Christianity, agape is the love of God, and no human can ever present agape to another person. But that has been changing, particularly in the last century, where there is a human agape. And the Christians have also identified agape almost exclusively with sacrifice. The only way that I can love you agapeically is to sacrifice myself for your benefit. There are times for that. There are times where that is necessary. We read about a parent who sacrifices their life to save their child, or a soldier who sacrifices his or her life to protect their own. But agape is about giving. In fact, if I could use 3 B words to describe eros, philia, and agape, they would be becoming for eros, belonging for philia, and bestowing for agape. Agape bestows what another person needs to reach their fullest potential. These are the 3 great loves in the Western tradition, and they have similarities to Eastern and indigenous religions as well. Now, is that all there is to say about love? Are these the only kinds? Well, we talk about brotherly love or motherly love or love for nation or love for God or spiritual love. Love is too vast, too mysterious, too wild. From 3 years ago, Maren. For us to fully pin it down. But I believe with Abraham, with Maslow, that we must study love. And we must provide some sort of definition to be clear about what we're after and how we can apply it to the situations that we face on this in this planet in peril. Oh my goodness. What time did I forgot my own timetable here. Anybody have a schedule? See, I was supposed to start at 5, 10, 15. My time's up. I just want to say that Harry Das Chaudhuri, who was the pioneer of integral philosophy and the founder of CIIS, says a lot that mirrors what Teilhard has to say. But there's one quote of Teilhard's I do want to share. He says, "In our present age, we need a worldview which takes into account the fundamental requirements of the age, as well as the basic aspirations of humanity's evolving psyche." Particularly hear this. "We need a worldview which shows how our deepest aspirations are related to the essential structure of the universe." We need a worldview which shows how our deepest aspirations are related to the essential structure of the universe. It seems to me that to love and be loved is our greatest aspiration. And it seems to me that eros, philia, and agape can line up pretty naturally, pretty easily with the three cosmogenic principles that Brian and Barry talk about in the universe story of autopoiesis, differentiation, and communion. Why cannot love be the cosmogenic principle of this universe? And we are the manifestation of that in our lives. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to share.